So what kind of a reaction do you typically get when you first start engaging in this kind of thing?
Did everybody hear?
Well, the question is, what kind of reaction do you get when you first engage in servant leadership activities?
Suspicion.
I work with a lot of technical individuals working here at MSUE, and also a lot of the individuals that I work with in corporate America. Usually it's like, that's not the way it's usually done, and how could you do that? And then it's really interesting as you start talking with them more and more and start giving examples, you're like, wow, I really like that, and I can see that, but it's a transition for them. And it's a real challenge. It's disruptive. And I think that's actually where learning takes place, is when it's disruptive. So it's not easy.
I think Jim made the comment that some of this takes time too. There's natural pressures at work of what's going to happen in the quarter and how do we meet our month. And so it does take the discipline to say that you've got to keep that foot on the accelerator for sure. But this is a long-term commitment, and we can't expect that you just go to one class and all of a sudden everybody's going to be transformed and feel differently. So it really helps when you can have a champion that believes in that in your organization and helps to drive it and maintain the persistent approach and thought behind it.
I would say servant leadership is really good for business. I think Johnny the Bagger showed the impact of that on that. But God's blessed us with about a 45% growth in enrollment during the last 5 years. And I'm convinced more than ever, and those of us involved in higher education, there's a lot of people writing off the young people today. Do not do that. These are phenomenal. This is a great generation of men and women that want to just be part of something genuine, authentic, real. This intrigues them. Mary, would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think that this is the most hopeful thing. And when people are down and out, just look around at what young people are doing, what they're thinking, what they pray about, and I think you really can get a glimpse into a wonderful future.
Mary's the president of Alverno. So I'm speaking on behalf of the college-age students of today. I believe we're in great shape, and it's a great time to have these discussions across the sectors like we're doing.
I would also say that as employers, if we don't recognize the importance of this to that generation, we're not going to be able to attract, or more importantly, retain that generation in our workforce.
Another question.
I just don't want to miss the opportunity for Jim to share a little something about something he saw in that video. A couple months ago, he invited our Thursday group to tour Beyond Vision, and it was a wonderful experience. And you saw in the video, the young lady was using a soda bottle top to slide a sleeve down over something. And he talked to us about that, and he told us what the engineer wanted to do and what he told the engineer he couldn't do. And I just wanted to give Jim a chance to share that story.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite stories. So the soda bottle, if you remember, Frenchie was putting a foam air filter over the bottom part of the filter, and that's really hard to do. When we first got the job for Briggs and Stratton, we were really struggling to do it fast enough and efficiently enough. And one of our employees came up with the idea of putting a 20-ounce soda bottle, cutting off the bottom of it, and making a funnel for the top of the filter. And so, and it improved the process by, an order of magnitude. I mean, we suddenly made something very difficult, very easy, because one of our employees came up with this idea, a simple idea. So to this day, we still use 20-ounce soda bottles. I hope they don't stop making them, because and our engineer said, wow, it's a really cool idea. We have an engineer from MSOE, actually, and he said, I'm going to design a funnel for that. I said, don't you dare. leave the soda bottle, because, Andy remembered the soda bottle, because it's impressive, because one of our employees came up with it, and it's one of my favorite stories, because it's the power of being open to employees' ideas that was at work there. So I said, you cannot redesign the soda bottle.
Questions?
With regards to the Brady experience, how did you prepare them for that week-long experience in Ho Chi Minh City, and What have you done since then to keep that from merely being an experience or a mountaintop experience? How has that become part of the culture for those people as they go forward?
I'll start. We purposely didn't prepare them for that experience because we did want it to be, in some ways, a really immersion into it. Now you have to realize Al's team had been around working together for a while, and we had some team building before that with them, but not necessarily this experience. During that, there was a lot of moments of, okay, stop right now. We're going to do a reflective moment. You need to sit back and think about where you're at. What can you do differently? How can you contribute to the team? Which was also very different from their process, trying to help them to take this all in, because it was pretty intense. But then how did it play out?
Yeah, Kelly and I laugh. We weren't prepared ourselves for what was going to happen in some of these instances. And I was the only one on the team that knew what we were doing that week. We just said bring blue jeans and go to Vietnam. I packed a whole suitcase full of medical supplies, medicine, and over-the-counter stuff, but because I wanted to donate that to the people. It was Tuesday during the week that I was called out of a meeting by the head of the hotel security staff, telling me that I needed to go to the airport because that suitcase that I packed it never showed up with the rest of my stuff.
Including his clothes. I'm sorry, I'll add that to it.
And then midweek, all of a sudden, I'm pulled away from the team and forced to deal with Vietnamese customs authorities. And the team looked at me and said, "How did you set that up?" And I said, "Honestly, I didn't." So we just had to go with the flow with that. How do we keep this alive going forward?
I'm going to add one other thing. The whole agenda really shifted the whole time. So, I mean, it was really nothing. We had set things, but as that, everything else evolved. So it was a matter of just-in-time kind of preparation.
So how do we keep it alive going forward? As a team, we committed. We got together once a quarter. Some teams get together once a month, but when you're traveling all over Asia, we could only do it once a quarter. And so that's 4 times a year. One of those times a year, instead of a 2-day meeting, we had a week-long meeting, and we had Kelly come out and work with us as a team, and we solely focused on leadership. We put all of our P&Ls aside, we put all of our business issues aside, and we focused on how do we become a better performing work team? How do we help support each other in what we're trying to do? And so it was that commitment, and I went home last night. I switched jobs 2 years ago, same company, different job. And I went home last night, and my wife said, "Gosh, you seem like you had a great day at work." And I said, "I did. For the first time, I've started that now with my new team." And shame on me, it was 18 months that we were just so busy that I didn't dedicate the time to that. But so it does take an active demonstration to say we are going to commit our time to do this going forward.
As you have staff turnover and new employees come on board, how do you engage them in that culture, knowing that they haven't had that experience with you?
Good question. I think, we really try to spend time understanding the personality and the individual and the interests when we're hiring. We do a group interview process and spend a lot of time on the interview process. I think a lot of companies don't spend enough time on making sure there's a fit between the individual and the culture you're trying to breed, and we really do. We have a group process. Usually it depends on the position, and typically we'll have 3 peer people to that position involved in the interview, and really try to spend a lot of time up front making sure there's a fit. And and then if there ends up not being a fit, deal with it early on in the onboarding process. But I think there's the hard part is getting the culture to move this way. Once you get enough critical mass in the culture that believes in this, people have to come along. Right? They won't like it there if they don't come along. So
I was going to comment, and it was mentioned Don and Levon Quick Trip, and Don and Levon Zietlow are just dear friends of ours at WLC, and the questions that they ask, right, when to hire, isn't really getting at that hard issue, right? And I think one of the things that that we just see more and more is just the mission is the mission, and the ethos is who you are, and just trying to, I think, when you bring people on board, making sure you have the right heart to be assimilated into that. I think the other thing that I just mentioned is, I think as leaders of any organization, the balance between systemically and organizationally trying to infuse servant leadership at the risk of just losing the organic nature of just what you are. We started a Center for Christian Leadership recently, and we're launching a certificate for leadership for our students. And one of the challenges that we're just making sure we don't, by having the process, losing the authenticity and the organic nature of just what it means to just serving just because. Does that make sense?
I think the other thing that especially larger corporations have to be cautious of is, how do you assess and reward talent within your organization? And this is something that I've learned personally a lot over the last 6 months, is that if you're not happy about the direction that your organization is going or that a team is going, you need to look at how you're assessing leadership. And I'll be honest with you, within Brady Corporation, I would say that we had a fairly traditional way of assessing leadership. It was very driven on results. And did we make this P&L, or did gross margins go up, or et cetera? Through all your reward and promotion mechanisms, you're going to be infiltrating the exact talent that maybe got you in the position that you're in. And so a number of people on my team have helped me understand a broader definition of leadership, and we've actually built that recently into our assessment tools, and I hope and expect that that is going to broaden our dimension of leadership within the company.
Can you say more about that, Bill? What it includes?
I'm going to point out Erica Joy Daniels, if you just raise your hand, EJ, in the back of the room, because I have a commitment that after this I'm going to have to run back to work. EJ's been instrumental in helping us and me as a leader understand that. But it would embody more of the servant leadership principles, and I don't say that just because we're a servant leadership conference, but do leaders show empathy to their team? Are they understanding? Are they flexible in different work environments? Those are not things that you can directly tie back to gross profit margins, inventory turns, et cetera. But those are things that are important to inspiring people.
I will give you a 55-year view of this. I'm really old, so I have this benefit. Along the way, you will be tested, and your natural inclination is goodness. Great majority of people, it's goodness. And you just have to bring that out somehow, and I don't have a formula for you, have that person discover what it's like to do something for someone else without an expectation. And sometimes that has to be explained. Just do it for the right reason. Now, in the process of hiring, we didn't have any big, we have one item that we look at, and if somebody is really low on that item, we say, we know it's not going to be a fit. But if we have somebody with other strong characteristics and they're younger, we'll identify what the issue is, and then we'll go to work on it. But it doesn't always work. And you have tough stuff that you go through because you're fair and you're just, and you give people the opportunity to correct, and you work with them, but you still end up with a no. Tough deals. So it's not at the end of this meeting, I'm going to talk about quantum theory versus Newtonian thinking. And we have been talking about Newtonian thinking. That's the way we were brought up. That's IQ. It's the way we all function. But the world is moving. This is the age of Aquarius. One more after this.
All right, as a servant leader, if you have somebody that has great potential, but not working to their potential, is there a systematic formula or steps that you work with them to help them be successful?
I don't think that there's a systematic way, but I do think it's really helping them to understand, as you were talking, really helping them, that first principle in some of the literature is about self-awareness, helping them to understand that and feel some confidence within that and take some risk. So I even look at the team that Al has, and there was such great potential to have them move into that leadership role because they were used to Al being the leader. And helping them to feel that confidence within that, and creating an environment where there could be some risk-taking, and it wasn't that they felt like they could take that risk to be that leader, and then if they didn't do spectacular the first time out, that they would be punished. And creating that environment of the whole team to help nurture that true potential.
I would add to that, first look in the mirror, then look to others. Last question.
Yeah, I got a question for you. In your makeup of your team, what is their criteria? Does it have to be a servant leadership-based criteria to come on board with your team, or how do you select that team for that leadership group that you work with?
Well, the group in Asia I largely inherited, so I didn't have a whole lot of selection process with that. But I would say one of the great things about working for the company that I do is that the values are very strong within the company. And so as other speakers have commented, I'm not a scientist, so I forget if it's the white blood cells that surround the red ones, or which are the good ones? The white ones are the good ones, so they surround the red. So when we've misfired, it happens actually pretty quickly. And we've recognized through our mistakes, if you will, what capabilities and what types of personalities work well within our company. And we don't dub it servant leadership. We don't ask people when they come in the door for an interview, are you a servant leader? But the qualities that we look for would be all the qualities that we've talked about here. And so I think that that's very important to us. And again, one of the things that we're trying to grow as a company on is not only the recruits that we bring in the door, but are we rewarding the right behaviors within our existing leadership team, and are we promoting those behaviors to make a future difference?
Excellent. Thank you, panelists. What a rich, diverse input you've given us. And now we go to a significant portion of the meeting. At your tables, discuss what you've learned and synthesize it. And from each table, we're going to ask what you've learned, and we're going to put it up here and make it available to those that didn't attend.